Hello everyone, this is Loco S, and welcome back to my tutorial series on the UH-1 Huey. I have literally just started recording this after our startup video, so this aircraft should be started up in the way it last left off. Things to note, up at my top left-hand corner, you will see my controls page. You'll see how I have my controls set up and what I'm currently doing to get my aircraft to do what it wants to do. The bar on the bottom, by the way, is my rudder, and the top crosshair is my cyclic. So I'm pulling back on the cyclic, pushing forward on the cyclic, right anti-torque, left anti-torque, quote-unquote rudder. I'll probably use the terms interchangeably. And that bar on my left is my throttle, is my both my throttle and my collective. As you can see, throttle is set to 100%, and generally for helicopter ops, you want to leave your throttle at 100%. See, I'm increasing collective a little bit, and I'm decreasing it. Just doing it very slightly because I don't want to actually take off right until now. So, when it comes to taking off in the Huey, well, some helicopters that have tires like the Mi-8 and the Mi-24, Mi-26 Hind, and the, is it 26 or 24 Hind? I forget. The Hind, the Apache, they have wheels, and they can sort of actually taxi, sort of almost like an aircraft by like pushing their cyclic forward and moving forward and sort of steering that way. The Huey has skids. See if I can actually... I can't really see them from the cockpit, but the Huey has skids, so it really can't taxi like that. What you want to do for taxiing in the Huey, if you want to taxi to the runway, is basically to basically just get your aircraft just off the ground and very slowly taxi over to the runway. So to do that, you want to basically get your aircraft to hover ever so slowly. You want to put in left anti-torque or rudder, and pull your collective to the back and to the left. This will counteract the forces that the Huey is going to generate, and even then, when you slowly apply collective, your Huey will still want to move around quite a bit. It takes a lot of practice and getting used to, so we don't need quite as much collective. So there we go. We don't need quite much cyclic. So we can kind of do this, and this is kind of how you taxi in the Huey. We're barely getting off the ground. We're moving very slowly. And this is kind of like and this is how you taxi in the Huey. It's not very practical, to be honest. The Huey was very much meant to designed to take off vertically from runways, especially because its whole modus operandi as a transport helicopter in the jungles of Vietnam was to land in areas that don't have runways, and you really don't need to necessarily taxi to the runway to do a runway takeoff. So we're going to go ahead and do... don't worry, ATC, we're doing a vertical takeoff. So really what you want to do in the Huey is do a vertical takeoff, and then once you get vertical, then you want to go straight forward to gain, going from pure thrust for your lift from your rotor blades into transitional lift, where you can actually start gaining aerodynamic lift from your rotor blades. So again, same thing. We want to put in a little we want to put in a decent bit of left cyclic, and you want to move left cyclic, a little bit of left cyclic, and a little bit back on the cyclic as well, pulling back a little bit on your stick, and then you definitely want to put in left rudder. And you want to ease up on the collective. That's the trick to the Huey. If you ease up on the collective, and you try not to get, you try not to like jam it forward, you will be able to have way more control on your Huey for takeoff. And there we go. Nice smooth takeoff. And generally for rotary ops, I would generally stay clear of the runway. I would actually, if I could, while you're doing your little bit of a hover check, rotate your Huey to face away from the runway and take off vertically away from the runway like that. You basically want to fly, you basically want to give your fixed wing fellow aircraft space to do their landing circuits on the runway. So don't fly too high. We're already flying kind of high at 300 feet, but that's okay. There we go. You want to stay kind of low. You don't have to necessarily go full treetop level. You might want to give yourself a little bit of space, but don't fly too high and over the runway, and you'll be fine. So, general tips of the Huey. Generally, when you're first starting out, you don't have to worry about flying too fast. She controls very well around 80 to 90 knots. You can push the Huey up to 120 knots in level flight. However, you'll notice that the cockpit will start shaking fairly aggressively, and any aggressive maneuvers will snap the rotor blades at that point. So try to keep it between 180 knots for level flight. If you want to really book it, 110 and 120 at the most. Definitely at 120, you want to be careful, and slowing down with the Huey does take time. So if you do get up to 120 knots, just be aware of your target area where you want to either employ your ordnance or land your troops at, so you're not trying to all of a sudden do some aggressive maneuvers to slow down your Huey when you try to land. And really, fine small movements is how you get your Huey to do what you want it to do. So here we're just slowly turning to the left. And a little bit more collective to maintain altitude. And really with the Huey, some of the gauges that you want to look at that are fairly important. Every once in a while, you want to look at engine, RPM, and exhaust. Make sure they are in the green, and they indeed are. You'll also want to make sure that you're looking at your vertical velocity indicator. You'll want to try that. You want to try to keep that above the 1 there on the vertical velocity indicator. If you just sorry, the lower one, rather. If you start falling faster than 100 feet per second, the Huey will get sucked into basically its own vortex, and what's called basically a VRS state, and the Huey will get sucked towards the ground, and you will die. You can go fast. You can decrease your altitude faster than 100 feet per minute, but you want to basically be absolutely certain that you are moving forward at a fairly decent clip in order to not get into a VRS state. Let's see here, we'll turn over to Saipan now. And again, if you want to try to maintain level flight, try to keep your vertical velocity at 0. The Huey can fly up a decent bit up in the air, but like most helicopters, the Huey prefers to stay relatively low in altitude. The higher you go up in altitude, the thinner the air, and with the thin air up there, your Huey will struggle to gain any more lift and be a little more harder to control. If you want to trim out your Huey for ease of use, you can use a trimmer switch. It basically is a force trim, and you press the force trim, and then you can immediately center the stick, and it'll keep the stick control input the same. I just hit the force trim switch right there, and as you can see now, my control input is set to that as normal. So that way you can set force trim up like that. And then that way, if you need to, you can adjust anything up here. Like, for instance, you want to arm your weapons right here. You can set up your different weapon selector. We want to arm our guns. We want to arm our flares. We can do that right now like that. Or if we need to switch our radio frequencies, we can do that as a single player. And if you do have the option to play the Huey as a multiplayer, you can generally keep your... you can have someone in your co-pilot seat man the radio and the armament panel right here, as well as control his own flexi state for the guns right there. So that is something that I highly recommend flying multiplayer in the Huey. Have your co-pilot man all the systems, while you as the pilot man the flying. Alright. We're pretty well here, so you can see with the trimmer switch, we just have to do very fine inputs on the switch now to get that finer control. If you want to reset or trim, there is a trimmer reset switch. And there we go. We're now back to center. Do keep in mind that the trim recentering will snap the trim. So be careful of harsh movements on your controls doing so. So there's, I believe, Saipan International up ahead. And we're going to go ahead and start our landing procedure for Saipan. You go ahead at this time, contact ATC over the radio, request landing clearance, and all that other stuff. I know that there's nobody here on, since this is a single-player mission by myself and there's no AI traffic, you don't have to worry about, I don't have to worry about flying over the runway. But when you're coming in to land at an airport, try to land, if you have to land on the runway, make sure you're doing a normal pattern like most of the other aircraft and do the full ATC procedure. If you're not, try to come in on the side of the runway that has the ramp, and that way, and do a vertical landing on the ramp. And that's what we're going to do. The Huey prefers vertical landings. Again, it has skids. So while it can skid forward during a landing to stop its movement, it generally likes to try to land vertically. So when landing, be careful to not get your vertical speed below 100 feet per second. You want to try to keep it. You want to keep it between 0 and 1, as well as also you want to start slowing your Huey relatively far out. As you slow your Huey, you'll be pulling back on the stick, or at least putting less forward input on the stick. That will slow the Huey down, but that will also increase your vertical speed. So you're going to have to be very careful keeping on the collective and on your stick. Again, keep on slowing down the Huey. You want to try to land ideally with 20 knots fewer of vertical movement. But it's okay if you land up to 40, I believe. Just keep in mind that if you do land at 40 knots, you will slide for quite a bit. As you can see here, we're starting to overshoot our ramp area by quite a bit. So we're going to keep on pulling down on the collective, pulling back on the stick, getting our forward speed down, while also lowering our vertical speed. Again, keeping our vertical speed above 1 as we slowly descend. And because we were fairly high up during that transit in between the two areas, we did overshoot our landing area, but that's okay. It is far better to overshoot the landing area on the first pass and come back in on a second pass than it is to try to descend too fast, get into VRS, and crash your Huey. Again, the key also to coming into landing is to get as slow as possible on your vertical speeds. Vertical and horizontal speeds as well. Try to get your airspeed down as low as possible. When you get your airspeed down fairly low, by the way, you will start losing your aerodynamic lift, and you'll be relying purely on your rotor for lift, so keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, when you're coming in for landing, of any obstacles nearby, like those trees, you want to make sure you clear those, and then you can start being a little more aggressive on your descent. Now, when you come in for the final bit of landing, add a little bit more power in so you don't land too hard. You want to try to keep your vertical speed when you come in to land above that 50 feet per second. So it's a nice soft landing. Keep vertical speed low. Slowly come down on the collective. Pull, and then again, sort of like landing, you'll see on my controls that I was putting in a lot of left anti-torque and then pulling to the left and back on the stick to basically get the Huey to come down as vertically as possible. You're not going to get perfect vertical landings in the Huey. You're going to get pretty good vertical landings, so you definitely want to make sure your landing area that you picked out has a decent bit of space around it. And that's landing into Huey. Like I mentioned for landing, make sure you slow down your airspeed far out. Make sure you get your altitude down reasonably low to start your landing procedure. If you come in over the area too high, you're not going to be able to descend fast enough to land. And with that, this ends this takeoff flight and tutorial video for the UH-1 Huey. Hope you learned something new and interesting here, as well as also trying to get some ideas on how to fly the Huey a bit more smoothly yourself. This is Loco S, signing out, and I will see you in the next video where we will start covering navigation. See ya!